You want to know how to build the perfect spaceship in Star Wars Galaxy's Jump to Lightspeed? You want to know what all of the ship parts do? Well, in this video, an officer in the Weird Gaming Adventure Guild is going to break down everything you need to know in this comprehensive guide for the ship parts in Star Wars Galaxies, and you're going to want to listen to this voice. It's going to get weird.
Right, thank you very much, Weird. We're going to cover today starship parts and how to optimize your parts for use within Jump to Lightspeed for Star Wars Galaxies. Now, the reason I put this video together is because there are so many parts, so much information, and it's kind of difficult sometimes, especially if you're a returning player, maybe if you're a new player. So I thought I'd give you a quick guide on how I set up my fighter, which you can see here is the advanced X-Wing. This is not optimized build yet, it's getting there, but I can tell you what each part is, what's the best stats to look for, and how to get them all to work together. So we manage the parts. Now let's have a look. We've got the list here. The first one we come to is the reactor. Now this reactor is a RE'd reactor. It is only a Mark II, so it's very low certification, but I've reverse engineered it, which is a whole nother thing that I can cover in another video or something like that. But basically here you want to look at the main stats. Now the main stat for the whole ship is this one here, which is the mass. The mass is how much stuff you can fit onto the chassis. Okay, now this is a generic, this is a given fixed amount for the starship, for the X-Wing advanced, and that's 180,000 for the mass. Every single part that you're going to put on this ship carries a mass. Okay. Most importantly, the beating heart gives power to all of your modules and your parts is the reactor. Now, what you want to look at here is how much mass, which is very low at 13,000, but it pumps out 22,000 in power. So this generation rate is very, very important. You want this high and this low. Okay. So that's the beating heart at the beginning. Then we've got the engine, so we'll close that one down, bring this one up. This is a crafted engine I've crafted myself on my other character, which is a shipwright droid engineer. Now again, what we're looking at here is more stats on the engine than the others, but you want to look firstly at the mass. It needs to be low. Okay, when you get on the low end items, they're all really low mass. When you get to the better items, they're bigger and heavier. So this is where the problems come in. So this again is 13,000 mass. It drains 2,297.5 off of my reactor. So remember that thing has 22,000. Okay, this drains 2,000 of that. So every item you use from here on in, apart from the reactor, is going to drain off of the reactor and drain off of your mass. Those are given. So important to look at for the engine. Now this is set up for PvE dogfighting, and I've got all of the stats here on the yaw, pitch and roll are 60. Yaw, pitch and roll is the turning, so yaw is sliding from left to right, pitch is going down and up, and roll is self-explanatory blow. And as you notice, the top speed is really high compared to the others. Now you want that in an engine because you want a good top speed and you want good yaw, pitch, roll. Now if this was a PvP engine, you would be looking at possibly dropping some of that top speed and having these to about 62, 64, so that you can maneuver quicker. You don't need to necessarily be going faster in a straight line, but you need to be able to move quicker. But PvE, you can do what we call jousting runs, where you literally full speed directly at your target, unload, let your shields take damage, and just keep going off at speed. Let your rear shields take damage, dump all your stuff in shields, regenerate your shields, and then go back and rinse and repeat. So having a top speed on that is good. Okay? So with an engine, for PvE, you're looking at around about between 60 and 62 is really good on the yaw pitch roll. For PvP, 62 to 64. But get a bigger top end that you can get. Okay? Shields. Now, these are, again, I have reverse engineered these, so the stats are slightly better than what you would get. They were the reward you get through grinding out the Ace Pilot, which Max is. But I've reverse engineered these to make them even better. What you want looking for here is, again, reactor drain needs to be low, mass needs to be low. The award shields, when you first get them, I think are 45,000. So I've managed to nearly half the mass of that shield unit. And you want high shield hit points here. Okay. Getting a good recharge rate is important with shields, but not so much later on, because you can get skills and chips, which I will talk about a bit later, that allow you to dump energy into the shield. So a recharge rate is important early on, but later not so much. You want more actual shields, and you want the mass to be under control. Okay. Armor, very self-explanatory, just needs to have as much armor hit points as possible, which is this one here on the top. You get front and rear armor. I've only got Mark 3s because of weight. Okay. But I don't necessarily need a lot of armor because I'm a shield tank with mine. I have a lot more better shields, and I can dump all the energy into the shields. Okay, but the rest of it, mass is important. Obviously, again, we want that low, but this number here, very, very important. How much armor it's got. Now we come to one of the more complicated ones, and maybe a little bit controversial, because different pilots like their capacitors are acting a different way. Excuse me. Now, what I like to do is I like to have a medium energy capacity and a fast recharge rate. Okay, so again, we look at reactor drain is low, mass is low. Now this is the amount here of the maximum amount of energy that this capacitor has. Now that's not so much important to me because I have skills on board with my computer that I can overcharge the capacitor. Right, you can see all these parts need repairing. That's because I overcharged them. Eventually I will repair them. So the maximum energy later on is not necessarily as important as recharge rate. You need this number as high as you can possibly get it, because what's happening is when your capacitor goes down, the recharge rate, if it's a really low recharge rate, you're not going to be able to fire for a great deal more time. The speed at which this one regenerates means that I can dump most of my capacitor to repair my shields, and then a few seconds later I'm almost full again, because this is very, very fast. So that's important there. The really, really important numbers for the capacitor are recharge rate and capacitor energy, although this becomes less apparent later on in the skill tree. Booster, okay, there's a lot of information here, and most of it is superfluous, to be honest. Depending, again, this one is more to taste, but I like to have a booster as my oh shit button. I'm in trouble and I need to get out of there, right? So I like to have incredibly fast acceleration and a lot more on the top speed. Some people like to have a slow burn booster, which doesn't get them that fast but will last longer. And I'll explain to you what the sums to do this to explain how it works, right? So first of all, this number here is how much the booster can handle. So it's 1246.8, and if you look at my consumption rate, that's per second, how much it's going to eat out of that 1246. Okay, so that's 119. It's almost 120. So what you can say there is I'm going to get about 10.5 seconds, because you divide this number by this number. 10.5 seconds of boost, which is really nice. But for me, more importantly, it very quickly gets the additional part of my speed on top, and that's what I need. Some people like it to be different. So when you're picking your booster, you can decide what you prefer more, whether you want less consumption, you want it to come recharge faster, just to really, consume really quickly, just boost you along very quickly for a couple of seconds and then recharge, and you can do it again. Or like in my case, it's an emergency button, so it's got to be dumping as much speed as possible into the system and get me going quickly. Okay, next we have the Droid interface. Now, again, reactor drain and mass, you must consider those, but the really, really important one is this one here, the Droid command speed. That is essentially how long you have between commands. Okay, so you've heard me talk about shield dump, which is where I'll explain those a bit more later or in another video. You get chips into your computer, and one of those skills you can get is called weapons capacitor to shield shunt, and that basically takes energy from the weapons capacitor and dumps it into the shields as a quick repair. Now, if you do that and you've got a crap droid interface, you might have to wait 35 seconds before you can do anything else. Okay, this is the one part where you can not worry, depending on your fighter style. You might not care to have another skill available in 13.5 seconds like I do here. I like to do on the bigger targets like the gunboats and so on and so on. I like to do strafing runs, so I like to be able to use my droid commands quicker. So I'm not too concerned about the mass and the energy here, because I have enough left over. This is the last thing I calculate to go in. Okay, so if you want to have one that has excuse me, lower mass, this is probably not going to be so low. Okay, and then you've got weapons. Now, weapons are very subjective. What I have on my X-Wing here, I have 3 advanced disruptors. Okay, and again, there is a lot of information here, but some people like to have the min-max damage really high. Okay, some like to just go really good against shields or really good against armor, or they like to have them fire quickly or whatever. Now, the way you're going to set your weapons up is dependent on how you set your capacitor up. Okay, my capacitor recharges very quickly, and if you my weapons are set up to pretty much ignore, when I did the crafting of these, because these are again all crafted by me, I ignored the min-max, I ignored the shield and armor. Okay, I didn't do too much with the mass when I had any points left over experimenting. My main focus is here, the energy per shot. Okay, all of them, if you look, are low. They're all at 16.5, which means if you add all 3 of those together, you've got 16 plus 16 plus 16, which is 32, 48, 49.5. So my weapons are draining 49.5 off of my capacitor. My capacitor recharges at 42.5. So I'm recharging 75 to 80% of everything I'm firing, which means I can fire for a lot longer. Okay, I find if you focus on damage, you're going to be able to do a lot of damage very quickly, but you're going to lose your capacitor. It's going to be empty very quickly. So I set them up to, they all do about the same damage at the top end. Look, exactly the same damage. So if you add all 3 of those together, you've got, nearly 7,000 top end damage and 4,500 low minimum damage. That's what I'm going to do per shot. I could get that up to maybe 9,000, 10,000 maximum, and 6, maybe 7,000 minimum. However, I'm not going to be able to fire as many shots as I do with this setup. So it depends on the person, but this is how I set it up, and I recommend doing this. A very fast capacitor recharge, very low energy per shot. Again, these weapons will be replaced once I get better ones from another set of skills that are reverse engineering. Okay, they'll be even better. Ordnance. Ordnance comes in different flavors. You've got proton, concussive, you've got seismic, and you've got the space bomb. The concussive will take down shields all day long, but they do very, very little damage against armor. Protons are the reverse. They will do, if you've got 1% of shields on your target and you fire a proton missile at it, those shields will probably negate most of the damage of that missile. However, if it hits armor, it's going to have a good day. Your enemy is not. Seismic works good against both, and same with space bombs, but you get very limited ammo with those. So that's the drawback with them. As the X-Wing only has one ordnance, I tend to run with seismic, which gives me about 4 or 5 shots. And when I'm going to get big stuff, I haven't got one on here because I've been redoing the build on this thing. But if you've got seismic, it gives you a very good impact against both shields and armor. And you only need a couple, you only use them against like gunboats and the like. Okay. Countermeasures, again, there is a list of them. They range from just flares to very intricate electronic scrambling devices. Get what you can to fit in with the mass and your energy once you've finished putting everything else in. Honestly, I don't use countermeasures because I don't PvP. The missiles coming at me, I can either outrun them or just I can eat the damage that the missile does. Okay, the last item here is the droid or flight computer. Now, rebels tend to use droids on their fighters. Freelance will use a flight computer, and I think Imperial use mostly droids as well, and flight computers. If you go to the bigger ships, the POBs, the player on board ships, those will require a flight computer. So let me show you the droid. Okay, we'll get rid of that, bring open this. Okay, now this is not my R2 for flying. This is my, isn't it? Yep, this is my level 6 astromech. And if I go to right click it and go to program droid, you can see all the chip queries there coming up. So what you do is you look for a what's it called now? I think it's called a droid command chip, and pilots can impart on these chips the skills. So rebel pilots don't tend to have, this is what the rebel pilots tend to have. They just have shield reinforcement, adjustment of shields, and so on and so forth. Imperials will have weapons overcharge, and freelance will have a different one, right? So if you want them all, you need to buy the chips. When you have them in your inventory, they're listed down here. You simply click on them, so they're on this side. Now if you look what I have on mine, I have Reactor Overcharge 4, I have Weapons Capacitor Overcharge 3, Weapons to Shield Shunt 3, Weapon Capacitor Power Up 4, Engines Overload 4, and Weapons Overload 2 for my fighter. Okay, and that means that I can overcharge those components that you saw there, and they do significantly better in their performance. I hope this kind of opens up a little bit to you the really confusing look of when you look at these lists here and see all these numbers, and I hope that this video has kind of helped a little bit sort of dispel some of the mystery and maybe, you know, unmuddy the waters a little bit. So really quickly to recap, the main stat you want to look at for your ship is the mass. So if it's a crafted chassis, look at the mass. Look at the mass of all the others of that kind, see if it's any good. And then you want to get a good reactor with high energy, and then the parts as I've described previously in the video. Always keeping an eye on the mass. Okay? Well, that's that for this one. I hope you like it. I'm going to try and do a few more videos with gaming for SWG. And if you if you think of one that you want to have some more information on, let us know, and we'll try and get one put together for you.